Chapter 13. Clarity in Leadership. Leadership is often measured by vision, strength, or the ability to make decisions. But beneath all of these is something more foundational: clarity. A leader is not only responsible for direction, a leader is responsible for making that direction understandable. Because people do not follow what they do not understand. It is possible for a leader to have a clear vision internally, yet fail to communicate it externally. In such cases, the problem is not the absence of direction, but the absence of clarity. The leader sees where things are going, but those who are meant to follow cannot see it as clearly. And because they cannot see it, they cannot move with confidence. This is where confusion begins, not from a lack of intention, but from a lack of translation. Leadership requires more than knowing what to do. It requires making it clear to others what should be done, why it matters, and how it should be approached. Without this, even the most capable team becomes ineffective. Not because they lack skill, but because they lack understanding. When direction is unclear, people interpret it differently. They make assumptions. They fill in gaps with their own understanding. As a result, alignment is lost. Everyone is moving, but not in the same direction. This is why leaders must remove confusion, not create it. Confusion in leadership is costly. It slows down execution. It creates hesitation in decision making. It leads to inconsistent results. And over time, it weakens trust. Because when people are unsure of what is expected, they begin to question the stability of the leadership itself. Clarity in leadership creates alignment. When direction is clear, people understand their role. They understand the objective. They understand how their work contributes to the larger goal. This creates confidence. They do not need to guess. They do not need to interpret excessively. They can act with certainty. And when people act with certainty, progress becomes more consistent. This connects directly to the distinction you have made in your work between the architect and the vendor. The architect understands the vision. The architect defines the structure. The architect determines what is built. The architect determines what is being built and why. The vendor executes tasks. The problem arises when leadership operates without fully embracing the role of the architect. When a leader functions only at the level of execution, giving instructions without ensuring understanding, the organization begins to resemble a collection of vendors rather than a unified system. Tasks are completed, but meaning is lost. This creates confusion. The architect, on the other hand, takes responsibility for clarity. The architect ensures that the vision is not only defined, but understood. That the structure is not only designed, but communicated. That the intent behind every action is clear. This is the role of a leader. Not just to decide, but to define clearly. Not just to instruct, but to ensure understanding. Because without this, execution becomes disconnected from purpose. This is what you describe as the gap between strategy and execution, the space where meaning is lost. In leadership, this gap is especially dangerous because when a leader does not bridge it, no one else can. The team depends on the leader for clarity. If clarity is not provided, confusion spreads. And once confusion spreads, it becomes difficult to correct. Clarity in leadership also requires consistency. It is not enough to be clear once. It must be repeated, reinforced, and reflected in action. If a leader communicates one thing but acts in another way, confusion is introduced. If direction changes frequently without clear explanation, uncertainty increases. Clarity is not only in words, it is in alignment between words and actions. This is what builds trust. There is also a discipline involved in this. Leaders must take the time to think clearly before speaking, to structure their communication, to anticipate where confusion may arise. This requires effort. It requires simplifying complex ideas without losing their meaning. It requires ensuring that what is communicated can be understood by those who are receiving it. This is not always convenient, but it is necessary. Clarity in leadership also involves listening. A leader must not assume that what has been said has been understood. There must be awareness of how communication is being received. If confusion exists, it must be addressed, not ignored, not dismissed, but clarified. Because the goal is not expression, it is alignment. There is also a personal aspect to this. Clarity in leadership begins with clarity in thinking. If a leader is unclear internally, that lack of clarity will be reflected externally. Decisions will appear inconsistent. Communication will lack direction, and the organization will feel unstable. This is why leaders must develop clarity within themselves. Before they can guide others, they must understand clearly where they are going. Take a moment to reflect. If someone were to ask your team what you are building, will their answers be consistent? If they were to explain your direction, will it be clear? Or will there be multiple interpretations? These questions reveal the level of clarity in leadership. Clarity is not a luxury in leadership, it is a requirement. Because leadership is not only about moving forward, it is about moving together. And that can only happen when direction is clear. Leaders do not add noise, they remove it. They do not create confusion, they resolve it. They do not leave things open to interpretation, they make them understandable. Clarity in leadership is what turns vision into movement. It bridges the gap between intention and execution. It ensures that what is being built is not only defined, but understood. And when that happens, people do not just follow, they move with purpose because they are clear.